This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Welcome to the Journey Step by Step podcast. I'm your host, Karyn Beach. Now, a lot of my shows fall under the category of Talkin testimony. I interview someone that shares their story and how God saw them through a difficult situation. This is another one of those episodes, except that I, yours truly, will be your guest. I've been going through quite a time since about February of this year. And you know what they say, your test is going to be quite a testimony. Well, the Spirit put it on my heart to share my testimony and the test that I've been going through and share with you how I've been making it through. Now, a lot of times when people get through the test and emerge with a testimony, you end up with a positive motivational statement or two, but rarely do people share what they actually did to make it through their trial. Well, in this episode, I want to do just that. And I want you to walk away with some of the tangibles that will help you make it through whatever test you're going through. It could be health, it could be relational. I know my test centered around employment and finance. So I want to really empower you and leave you with some things that can help you. And I'm going to distill it into the 3 P's. People, prayer, and powering up. But before I get started, I want to give you a little bit of a background on my situation. I'm an instructional designer by trade. Basically, I work in the field of learning and development or corporate training. I write training materials. I design online training classes. I've been in the field for about 20 years or so, and I really love what I do. Now, 2 years ago, I was working for a major retailer. I went into work one January day, and by 10 o'clock, half of our department of 10, including me, had been downsized. It was a rough 8 months that followed, but I ended up at what I thought was a great place. But then office politics reared its ugly head. My work buddy was someone my boss's boss didn't like. The day after she got rid of him, she went after me. And 3 weeks later, the same day that I turned in a project and was praised for my project and my creativity, I was out of work. I bring this up not to boast because of the talents and abilities I had, but because the talents, abilities, and opportunities that I've had are all God-given. It has nothing to do with what I did or didn't do. But I wanted to explain kind of how all of this started. Now that day, the day I lost my job, I went home and I applied for unemployment just to find out that it could take 6 weeks for that decision to come through. And I started applying for jobs immediately. But I was worried. I don't have anything in savings, so this 6 weeks without an income was a big deal. Then, out of the blue, I'm going to my mailbox that next Wednesday, and unemployment sent me a check for $2,800. It was the money I should have received the year before during my unemployment that I never got. And a few days after that, I got a $300 check from my car insurance company because apparently I'd been overpaying. So at this point, I was praising the Lord and sharing my testimony. Look, I lost my job, but look at all this money that came into the mail. Praise Jesus. But that money dried up. And despite how wonderful the job market is supposed to be, every opportunity I had, no matter how good it seemed, vanished into thin air. So by mid-April, my windfall was gone, and I'd started getting unemployment, but that was pretty meager to say the least. Let me mention at this point that it's just me. I don't have a husband or significant other to help. I have no family or friends with the money to help me out. It's me and just me. So I have to rely on everything on my shoulders, or so I thought. And I also suffer from major depressive disorder, which can be really debilitating at times. There were times during this period when I literally was balled up on the floor in tears. There were other times that I prayed that God would just take me in my sleep because I really couldn't take anymore. And there were other times that I was scared to get out of bed in the morning because I was afraid of what catastrophe could await me. I often felt very abandoned and alone during this time. And when you're feeling like that and you are literally by yourself, it's not a good place to be. So I relied on the first of those 3 P's, and that is good people to help me through. Sisters from my Bible study and friends and family, they weren't there to help me financially, but they were there to pray with me, to encourage me, and to remind me of all the times that God had brought me through. It's really easy to forget the goodness of God when you're going through hard times. But the people that were closest to me, and if this is you, the people that are closest to you can remind you of those times that you got checks in the mail, or that circumstances changed, or people showed up in just the nick of time. Even my pastor and church were there for me. They prayed with me. They talked with me. And at one point, things got so bad that I had to go to the church for gas cards and grocery money just so I could get around. I mean, talk about humbling. One of the ways God is working with me is I can be very arrogant and full of myself and feeling like I have to rely on myself all the time. So to have to rely on the Lord and on other people was really, really humbling. Why can't I say humbling? Humbling. My depression got so bad that a friend of mine who's also a therapist suggested that I find a support group. So I found one, and I chose the one that was closest to me. And I had that for a while, but I didn't go. But then I got to the point where I was truly at the end of my rope, and I finally went. That's when I found out that the group that I had went to, the group that I just randomly picked, oh, this one is close, they met at a church. I had found a Christian depression support group. Not only that, but they had a Christian therapist on site that I could see for free, which is huge when you don't have health insurance. So I have no doubt, none, that the Lord guided me there. I literally just went by zip code. Okay, that place is close. I'll go there. I didn't look at anything else. And I end up with a Christian resource. It was completely powerful the way that happened. During the time that I found the group, I also found a contract position working from home. The hourly rate was a little less, well, a lot less than I'm used to making, but it was more than unemployment. I started working from home, and one night I came home and realized I didn't have any hot water. My hot water heater, the brand new almost, the 4-year-old hot water heater I had, all of a sudden wasn't producing hot water. A girl from my depression support group suggested a plumber that I could call and get a good rate. Well, I couldn't even make an appointment before they're telling me, oh, well, you need to replace your unit. Really? I just bought it 4 years ago, and without even looking at it, you're going to tell me that I need to replace it? So I used the second P that we'll talk about a little bit more later on. And the Lord directed me to a wonderful handyman who came after I called him within 2 hours and fixed it for less than $100. So again, I'm praising the Lord that he sent good people after my prayer. So that's 2 of my P's. So I've got hot water and really, really, really happy about that. And I'm still looking for a better job that's going to pay me what I kind of need to live. And I go on to LinkedIn, and a man had messaged me about a job opportunity. I'd be doing the job I love and making more money than I'd ever made before. But I didn't get my hopes up. I mean, throughout these months, good job opportunities had presented themselves only to disappear and dry up immediately. So I had an interview. I took a cold shower, put on my best interview dress, and went to the interview. Well, the funny thing is when I got there, it was as if I already had the job. I got told what I'd be doing. I met one of the people I'd be working with. 2 days later, I had an offer letter. All I needed was a start date. And it didn't come. Now, at this point, I was relying on the people, that first P in my life, more than ever. Working alone all day, every day with clinical depression during a difficult time can take its toll. So the second P, prayer, became even more important. I read my devotional every day. I talked to God regularly. I even cried out to him and voiced my frustrations to him. The people in my life were praying for me too. And in fact, it was after one Bible study I went there with tears in my eyes, and I ended up sharing my whole story. And one of the women in my group the next day sent me a Joyce Meyer video to watch. Now, however you feel about Joyce, the word she shared with me that day made a huge impact. You see, throughout this process, even though I was praying, even though I had great people around me, I didn't feel God's presence. And in that video, Joyce said it wasn't about feelings. It's about commitment and trust. So the example she used was a marriage, but I guess you can apply it to parent-child relationships or anything else, any other kind of relationships. And she was talking about the fact that successful spouses, people that stay married, go through times when they don't feel all lovey-dovey and romantic about their spouse. But they stick it out because they're committed to their marriage. Feelings are fleeting. Commitment is more long-lasting. And I decided right then to stop basing everything on how I felt at that moment. Regardless of how up or down or sideways I'm feeling, Jesus died for my sins. That doesn't change. God is in control. That doesn't change, like my feelings do. You know, to use a Karyn analogy, I'm walking around in a pitch black room. But from God's view, it's fully illuminated. Not just the room, but the house, the neighborhood, the city, and as far as He wants to see. The only thing I have to do is trust. And trust Him. And I decided that that is what I was going to do. So when I prayed, I started thanking Him more. I have found out firsthand that hot water is a blessing. So I thanked him for it. My crazy dog, Jake, was a blessing. My house, my car was a blessing. And even though I wasn't making a lot of money at it, my contract job, making more than I was on unemployment, doing something that I enjoyed doing, was a blessing. This new job could be a blessing, but I still didn't have the start date. And it's like over 3 weeks since I'd gotten this job opportunity. Since God literally tossed it in my lap. I did not go looking for this job. I did not apply for it. I just heard from this man who, when I got there, said, "This is your job." If that's not God, I don't know what is. I wanted to hope for the best, but I didn't want my hopes to be dashed because I know how disappointed I felt during this time. I had people in my corner. They were praying for me. I prayed daily. I tithed off of all my money, but I needed something else. I had people. I had prayer. Now it's time for the third and final P. I powered up. What's a power up, you ask? I powered up by doing a 3-day Daniel fast. I started on Sunday morning and I went through Tuesday night. During the day, I watched inspirational videos and sermons. I prayed. I read my word. And on that Tuesday, I got the answer I wanted from my fast. So that next Thursday, I'd be meeting with the people I'd work with. And then that Monday following that, I would start my new job. So I got the answer I wanted from my power up when I fasted. But I got so much more. Even if I hadn't gotten that answer, I got closer to God. I felt closer to God, not relying on my feelings, but I don't know how to say it. I felt closer to God. During that time, I listened to Priscilla Shirer, Francis Chan, and now others who are in my arsenal when I need something to listen to, something motivating, something inspirational. I watched a lot of videos. I heard a lot of music that I'm now listening to regularly. So I got closer to God in several different ways through my power up, through my fast. Now, with this opportunity, this job that I've been given, I'm not only doing work that I love, which makes a huge difference to me. I'm going to be making enough money to get caught up from where I am right now, and even to put money into my savings account. So it looks like I'm coming out of a test. And it also looks like I'm about to start another test with family relationships. But that's another show for the future. And the thing is, this was a test. There's absolutely no doubt about it. And there could be another test on the horizon. Even if that test doesn't manifest, there's going to be other tests because that's how life is. But positive people, consistent prayer, and maybe a little power up can turn that test into a testimony. So I want to leave you with using the people that are in your circle, and you know the ones who are there for you. I wouldn't even talk to all those other people, but talk to the people and invest in the people that are invested in you. Take time to pray, to talk to God. And because prayer doesn't have to be this Our Father who art in heaven, always sitting on your knees with your hands folded. Your prayers can be throughout the day, just like you talk to someone, just like you text somebody. Those are prayers as well. So pray without ceasing. Have people in your corner. And if you feel like you need a little power up, take a little fast for a couple days even. It doesn't have to be a 10, 21, or 40-day fast. It doesn't have to be water only. But show God through your fasting, however that looks for you, that you're committed to Him and that you're sincerely looking for answers. So those are your 3 P's: people, prayer, and power-ups. Now, just so you know, I'm lining up other guests, so you don't have to worry about being stuck listening to me ramble on every week. And I think it's time to call it a day on this episode with the 3 P's: people, prayer, power-ups. Now, go ahead and head on over to the Facebook page, because I would love for you to share and hear how you've turned the test you faced into a testimony. And until next time, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go.